Hi folks, welcome to Your World with Prakash Kapila. In this episode, we have a very interesting topic that we want to discuss that impacts your life and our lives in general. So wherever you are in the world, this will affect your life. So we are going to talk about the trade between India and Russia and how the Russian trades with India and the complexities involved. So we are going to find out net effective deficit or net effective advantage that India will have. Of course, we know that Russia stands to take lot of advantage in this particular scenario. So what is the issue at hand? Issue at hand is the Russia-Ukraine war. Russia invaded Ukraine, and based on that, all the countries except China and India have made Russia as untouchable. So nobody is trade except the European countries, of course. So nobody wants to trade with Russia because America and EU have imposed sanctions on Russia. And most of the European countries, mainly Germany, depend a lot on Russian oil and gas, more on gas than oil. Germany can actually withstand Russia not supplying it oil, but it cannot withstand Russia not supplying it coal. Russia is eager to supply, but the condition that Russia has put is that you have to trade in rubles and not in US dollars. So what is the crux of the issue? The crux of the issue is Russia had around $500 billion in the reserves. So these reserves are there in US banks. So the dollar is actually given by the US banks to the Russian banks. Now with embargo, what happened? These $500 billion are no longer given to the Russian banks. They are sitting at the US banks. They are not going into the Russian banks. So what did Russia do? Russia says that, okay, I want to trade with ruble, not with US dollars, because US dollars US banks are giving, whereas rubles Russia can print itself and give. So the biggest customers of Russia are the European Union, which are totally dependent on the Russian, more on gas than oil. Okay, what they have said is, we are not going to trade with you in non-US currency. So why is this US dollar so important for any trade between any country? So what happens if two countries trade with each other without the US dollars? Right now, if Saudi Arabia has to trade with, say, China, it trades with US dollars. If China has to trade with, say, Vietnam, it has to trade in US dollars. Or China has to trade in Europe, it has to have a trade either in euro or in US dollars. Euro and US dollars and Japanese yen, these are the three currencies. They are called global currencies. Why? Because on a single day, see, there is a currency trading happening everywhere by all the traders. So why is this currency trade happening? Okay, that will go in later, but right now what we'll do is we'll focus on what currency trades are more. The currency trades happen on pairs, right? USD JPY, USD Euro, USD pound. When you say USD JPY, it means a person is trying to give you US dollars and getting the Japanese yen. It is comparison between one currency to another currency. The trade is happening from one to other. So USD JPY means USD is compared to the Japanese yen. USD EUR means USD is compared to the EUR. I am giving you so much US dollars, you give me so much euro currency. So the total amount of currency traded per day, the total amount of currency traded all across world is $7 trillion. I'm not kidding. It is $7 trillion is traded on a single day across the world. And most of the trades happen with USD JPY, USD EUR and EUR JPY. If you see, Japanese yen is traded a lot with currencies. So why is this happening? Why Japanese yen is traded a lot, whereas Indian currency or Russian currency or even pound is not traded that much? Because the Japanese yen, the Japan was the first exporting country even before China, and it started exporting into different regions like Toyota cars, Honda cars were there in all across the Europe and US. So therefore, when two countries are trading between each other, so they say that if someone wants to trade between India and US, so US is only going to accept dollar and India can only print rupees. So what will the company in India do? It will buy dollars and then it will trade between two merchants. So there is something called letter of intent and letter LOI, and the permissions are given. So the merchant goes to the local bank and tells to the local bank that there is a trade between me and a, say, Switzerland company, for example. Let us not take US. So there is a trade between Indian rupee and, say, Switzerland, right? So what will the Indian merchant do? They will go to the Indian bank and say, hey, this is the XYZ Switzerland company that I am going to trade against. So this Switzerland company goes to the local bank and says, I am going to purchase goods from India based Indian company based in, say Lucknow, for example. So what will happen is the banks will interact with each other, saying that okay, this ABC company from Switzerland is trying to purchase something from XYZ company in Lucknow. So these banks will then do a interaction, okay, and then the transfer of money is happening between the banks. It is not happening between the clients, it is happening between the banks. So when banks are transferring the money between each other, they use SWIFT system. Okay. This SWIFT system is designed by America and it transfers dollars between two entities. Okay, it's like a communication between one bank to another bank. Say, hey, I am giving you $1 million. Then the receiver will say, hey, I got $1 million, that is 7 crores, I am giving it to this guy. So that particular transaction is happening between the banks. The end merchants are not at all involved, only the banks are involved between the two trading partners. Okay. So when Switzerland is trying to buy something from India, so that guy will say, I don't have, I need some krona. Krona is this thing, currency. So I can either have krona or I can have dollar, because then I can easily convert. So from any currency to convert to any currency, dollar is the standard. So that's why lot of banks, lot of currencies peg themselves against the dollar. If you want yuan, even the trade between India and China, for example, it is like $360 billion. It's in dollars. It's not in rupees. It's not in yen. It's in dollars. So $360 billion is the imports we do from China, even after Galwan. Okay, because we are totally dependent on their raw materials. So China is importing $360 billion to India, and India is paying $360 billion to China. Okay, that import is made only on dollars. It's not made on rupee, it's not made on yuan. It's made only on dollars. So India goes, buys dollars, and China says, okay, I can accept the dollar, and then it says, okay, my 1 million yuan is converted to say some $500,000. All right. So you give me $500,000 and I am happy. So what India has to do? Indian merchant has to buy those dollars and give it to the Chinese person, so that the goods can transfer. So the money transfers happening between the merchants, between each one of them, only happens in dollars. So therefore, when you have a SWIFT system, you are bound to dollar. If the countries say I don't want to be in dollar, I want to be in my own currency, then who is going to value what currency? So, India and Russia had the similar kind of agreement till 1990 that India is going to give rupees and Russia is going to give rubles. But all of a sudden during 1990 the Russian ruble fell so much. I mean, it fell like 80% from its original value. So, the rupee ruble conversion rate was always falling, every day it was falling, and there was no way you could say that okay, I have to buy this many rubles to get say a military equipment. But by the time you buy that many rubles, the military guy would say, hey, this money is no use for me because my value of money has fallen. I want to actually, instead of having 1 million ruble, I need 10 million rubles because 1 million has become 10 million, when the that is called inflation. So, when inflation is at 10%, your 100 rupees or 100 quantity has become 90. Each day, if the inflation is falling, your value of currency is reducing. So, at one point of time, even if you give 1 million rubles, the actual value because of inflation would only be how much? 600,000 or 500,000 rubles. That means you are giving 10 lakh rubles, but the value is determined only as 6 lakhs. So, 40% inflation has happened, I can't take 6 lakh rubles. So, what they said, I want 12 lakh rubles because I expect this to fall further. Now, the Indian government had to again buy a lot of rubles and give it, and each day those rubles were falling like anything. So, then P.V. Narasimha Rao and the Russian president Boris Yeltsin, I think, they sat together and fixed a rate that pegged with dollar, and then the transactions happened. Whether you lose some, you gain some, like that it happened. And from then on, India started saying we are going to go with the dollar because the value of dollar doesn't fall that much. Whereas for any other currency, the value of that currency fluctuates a lot. So, for example, you take yuan, right? It is like 6 yuan for $1. Now, what China wants? China wants that to be 60 yuan for $1. Because it is an exporting country, it wants more dollars, therefore, more currency, therefore, it pegs it, it wants to peg it high. Whereas, an importing country wants to peg it low, saying that my currency should be $3, not just $1. So, what happens if your currency is low, your exports value will increase. If your currency is high, the export value will decrease, but the import value will increase. So, this export import works in opposite directions. So, you can think about like this: export is you are selling something, import means you are buying something. Okay. When you want to buy it for less, when you want to sell it for more. So, therefore, your exchange rate should be more when you want to sell, and when you want to buy, your exchange rate should be less, only then you can buy more, right. So, this is the game of the exports and imports. If the country is having more imports, then their currency should be more. If the country is having less imports, then the currency should be less. Only one country in this world has maintained that, and that is Japan. The Japanese currency is around 115, 125 for 1 yen, because it is totally export country. It keeps on, the value keeps on increasing, the export value keeps on increasing for Japan. Japan is the only country that is able to establish that relationship, whereas all other countries can't do it. And most of the reason because why Japan is able to do it, because it maintains a healthy financial system. It doesn't create lot of deficits. It maintains good deficit means the difference between your spending and your earning, what you earn and what you spend. The difference of that is called deficit. So, a country, exported country like Japan, it creates a good healthy financial system. Inflation in Japan is not there. It is like for last 15 years, inflation of Japan is 0, 0.2, 0.5. They want to make it to 2 so that people will start buying, but it does not go like that, because its exports are very, very strong. When compared to Japan, there is no other country where such exporting country can command such position. However, there is one importing country that commands a huge position, and that is US. US imports the goods from all over the place. It imports from Africa, it imports from Europe, it imports from India. Incidentally, the largest exporting nation for India is US. US buys a lot of things from India. It is close to around 200 billion. India buys 300 billion worth of goods from US, and US buys 200 billion worth of goods from India. So, the net is $100 billion is what India is giving on a regular basis to America. Okay. So, India is importing country, America is importing country, but American dollar is the world currency. Not only because a lot of people who do not know about currency trades say that because of oil US dollar is high. The oil import, the total percentage of oil in the world GDP is very negligible, like 10-15%, not more than that. But the financial system of all of the world is basing on dollar. Why? Because dollar is stable. There are a lot of the mechanisms for currency maintenance, and US dollar is very, very stable. Even though everybody wants US dollars, everybody wants US dollars, still US is not printing a lot. It printed up to its level of GDP, but still, since all the countries want dollar, it is safe. So, in 19th century, every country wanted pound, every country wanted pound. So, therefore, it was very stable, and what happened during World War I and World War II, they printed 10 times more than what the world wanted, and therefore, the pound value fell. When there is lot of supply, the demand falls. Okay. But US is very strict in printing new things. It does not print it just like that. It has to have, it has a lot of restrictions in printing new currency, and at the same time it has lot of space to print. So, if the space to print is this much, US is only printing this much. That means, US can print actually 3 times its GDP, but still US tries to only do for little bit of that. So, there is lot of why a currency is held high is because the systems in place are independent. So, for example, US president cannot tell, won't tell, he can tell, but he won't tell the Fed authorities to raise or reduce the interest rate. But whereas in India, for example, India government took money from RBI to its own purposes. Every year India prints more than it can handle, that is called deficit. we are a deficit country. So, we keep on printing more and more currencies all the time, and therefore, if you see from 2015 to 2020, we were like US to Indian rupee was like 60, 65. Now, it is at 77. And recently, when the trade happened between India and Russia, the US dollar to Indian rupee was at 70 rupees. Now, it became 77 rupees. That means, the total value of Indian currency fell by 10%. So, all your salaries, all of the money that you have, everybody who has any money in India, their net worth has gone down by 10%. That is what it means. Okay. So, because we did, I mean, there is always a correlation. After we did the trade with Russia, the currency of India fell by 10%. And you see all the finance ministers, commerce ministers and everybody saying that it will come back. But the currency has never, once it falls to a certain level, it will not come back so easily. You need to have fiscal discipline, which Indian politicians do not have. So, therefore, the 75 to 1 US dollar will be like that. So, our exports have exports value has increased, but imports value has decreased. So, since we are net importing country, our value of imports has increased by 10%. That means, instead of giving $100 billion to US, now we will be spending more to get that $100 billion, spending more rupees for that $100 billion. That means 10%, we could have got $120 billion with the same amount of money that we had. Now, for that $100 billion, that 10% has been reduced. The total worth of trade between Russia and India is $8 billion net. I mean, $8 billion you are buying from Russia, you are giving $3 billion. So, net is like say $7 billion is the money that you are net giving to Russia. $100 billion is what you are giving to United States. Okay. And you need imports from United States, without which you can't go. For example, we need petroleum, we need minerals, we need raw materials, organic materials, all those things we are importing from USA. If USA stops importing, then you have to spend twice the amount, because there is a reason why you are getting it from US, because it is cheaper than other places. So, if US stops importing from India, then your services will go down like anything, your IT will go down like anything. So, for $10 billion, you for 7 billion, to save $7 billion, India has already lost $10 billion. Now, with more and more trade with Russia, the stock market is falling down. Most of the FIIs are going away from India, and this is happening. Most of the FIIs, all the stock market fall, all the currency fall is happening because FIIs will take away the money. If you see, big US corporations will not interact with their counterparts. In Russia, almost all big corporations have moved out. The Russians are saying, oh, you move out, we will run the business. But you should understand that they couldn't run the business in the first place. Therefore, the other guys came in to run the business. So, now these guys have gone, now they have to run their own business, which they will not be able to do. And the economic impact is felt across the length and breadth of Russia. If India goes forward with lot of Russian imports, then there will be a backlash from US. Definitely there will be backlash from US. So, India is hanging on a very small thread. It is saying that since Europe is also buying Russia, we are also buying Russia. So, once European guy says will no longer buy oil, will only buy gas, then you are also in a fix of only buying gas or not oil. There are a lot of, it is not that easy, it is very complicated, but if we try to go for in one way, then the other way is going to fall, and that is going to create lot of economic problems to India. US is very high trading partner, 10 times more trade happens between India and US than India and Russia. So, Modi must be very cautious in whom to, there is no way. If you go with Russia, America will be unhappy, whole world will be unhappy. If you go with America, Russia will be unhappy. So, you have to choose one among the two, and which one are you going to choose? I want to go in both the I want to choose both of them. I do not want to be on one side or the other, is what is our position, is India's position, but I do not think they can maintain that for more than a month or so. So, with this background intact, we will meet next time, and next time we will talk about the trip of Boris Johnson and what happened. So, stay tuned. Keep in touch. Let's meet next time. Thank you.